My job is to talk to the enemies of the state, to the Communist Party of the Philippines, and see if I could make a difference in our lives.
The prospects for a negotiated settlement of the communist-led insurgency today has never been the brightest since the government began talking peace with the Reds in 1986. The assumption of Rodrigo Duterte into the presidency has revived hopes that fighters of the Maoist-inspired New People's Army will finally lay down their arms after almost half a century of protracted war.
It was in the 1970s na nakinig ako kay Jose Maria Sison, talking about revolution. And I am now 71 years old, and the Communist Party is still talking of a revolution.
A student of the new Communist Party founder, Jose Maria Sison, and a member of the militant patriotic youth, Kabataang Makabayan, in his university days, the former Davao City Mayor has proclaimed himself a leftist and socialist.
Magkasama kami, left po ako, sa left ako. Hindi ako kandidato sa mga oligarch pati mayan, left talaga. Kaya kami nakakaintindihan.
During his campaign for the highest post of the land, Duterte already expressed his intention to negotiate a peaceful end to the rebellion. To jumpstart the peace negotiations, Duterte invited rebel leaders to dinner in Malacanang, freed 18 top communist leaders prior to the resumption of the peace talks in Oslo, Norway last August, and appointed free leftists to his cabinet. Organized on March 29, 1969 in Tarlac province by young ideologues and remnants of the guerrilla force that broke away from the old Communist Party, the NPA grew strongest during the martial law regime of Ferdinand Marcos. It is said that some 150,000 rebels, government security forces, and civilians have been killed in Asia's longest-running communist rebellion.
I know that it is medyo resistant kayo to accept it because of the historical yung sakit. Maraming namatay sa inyo, pero marami ring namatay sa mga komunista. As president, I have to seek peace for our country. Hindi pwede na estudyante pa ako, pati hanggang ngayon, nagpapatayan. And it is getting bloodier by the day.
In his first State of the Nation address, Duterte announced a unilateral ceasefire with the communists.
To immediately stop violence on the ground, I am now announcing a unilateral ceasefire with the CPP, NPA, NDF, effective immediately.
The communists reciprocated with a ceasefire, which the NPA terminated on February 1. The truce was the longest in the history of the communist insurgency.
Yung pinakamahalaga para magkaroon ng kapayapaan sa ating bansa ay yung tinatawag na social and economic reforms.
In the latest round of talks in Rome, Italy, was described as successful by the government and the rebel panels. Both parties focused on the draft proposals on political and constitutional reforms and signed the ground rules for the discussions on socio-economic reforms. They also signed supplemental guidelines for the Joint Monitoring Committee for their comprehensive agreement on respect for human rights and international humanitarian law.
Full implementation of Karil requires the release of the 392 political prisoners immediately.
Also taken up was the rebel demand for the release of free convicted leaders, amnesty, and release for almost 400 political prisoners, as well as the government's proposal for a bilateral ceasefire. The government panel has also agreed to move for the delisting of the NDF chief political consultant, Jose Maria Sison, from the terrorist list of the US, which has prevented him from traveling outside of Europe. Both parties agreed to meet for the fourth round of talks in Oslo, Norway in April. While the peace talks may have moved forward in this round, Sison himself cautioned about expectations about an early end to the conflict. In his opening address, Sison pointed out that the rebels will only agree to end hostilities and disposition of forces when the comprehensive reforms agreed upon in the negotiations will be implemented to the satisfaction of the Filipino people and the rebel front.
In various ways, President Duterte can prove in real and concrete terms that he is a truly patriotic and progressive president and fights against imperialists and oligarchs.
Quite a number of rebel demands may require changes in the charter, a move which the communists support, particularly the shift to a federalist system of government.
The NDFP is willing to maintain its alliance with the GRP and the Duterte administration, in particular by cooperating in the founding of the Federal Republic of the Philippines.
On the other hand, the government's chief negotiator, Labor Secretary Silvestre Bellio, has said that if the government is able to address and eliminate the root causes of the armed conflict, then there will be peace even without a signed agreement with the rebels.
Nagpasya kaming tapusin ang tigil putukan dahil una, nabigo ang rehimeng Duterte, natuparin ang pangakong palayain ang lahat ng bilanggong politikal. Ikalawa, tusong sinamantala ng GRP ang tigil putukan ng CPP-NPA para sakupin ang di bababa sa 500 kabaryo sa mga teritoryo ng demokratikong gobyernong bayan. Kahit pa tinapos namin ang unilateral na deklarasyon ng tigil putukan, patuloy na susuportahan ng CPP at NPA ang negosasyong pangkapayapaang GRP-NDFP.
With the rebel truce ending on February 10, Duterte will have to revisit his strategy in ending the communist-led rebellion.
The wanted release of prisoners 400. I said, I have surrendered, conceded too much too soon. Huwag niyo akong ipitin because the military might not like it. And then if the military would oust me, would kill me, you have nobody talking to you. Nag-withdraw kayo sa ceasefire. So, am I supposed to do the same? Kaya gaya po tumaya. Just go ahead. I will decide in the fullness of God's time.